So solving radical equations, the first step says to isolate the radical. What does the word isolate mean?
By itself.
Yeah, by itself. Like if I were isolating you in a room, that means nobody else is in the room, right? So is this radical currently isolated by itself? No. What else is on that side of the equation?
The 2.
Yeah, so that's what it says. Isolate the radical, so we're subtracting 2. Okay, so now I have the square root of x equals 4. Okay? Step 2 says use inverse operations. So in other words, division undoes multiplication. Adding undoes subtracting. What undoes a square root?
Square.
Yeah, a square. That's the inverse operation of a square root. Okay? So, but if you do it to one side, you also have to
do it to the other.
Do it to the other side. So now we get x equals
16.
16. Okay? Now sometimes there's some more solving to do. We'll see that in a minute. And then lastly, check for extraneous solutions. So if I take 16 and I plug it back into my original equation, what is the square root of 16?
4.
Plus 2?
6.
Does that equal 6? Yes, so check mark, it does work. Okay? So that's long story short. Now let's do a few of these. Let's look at number 3. How many of you were able to get number 3 on your own?
That one was easy.
Yeah, I think.
If you did it right, you should have gotten 21.
Yeah.
How many of you got 21?
I got 21.
Good job. If you didn't, or maybe you just didn't do it because you didn't do your homework, watch now. Okay, so first step, what do I need to do to isolate, to isolate the fourth root?
Get rid of the 3. Add 3.
Correct. I need to add the 3 to the right side. So now I have the fourth root of x minus 5 equals dose. Now you have to be careful because we're so used to squaring things, but is this a square root?
No.
No. So how do I inverse and undo a fourth root?
Do it on the other side.
You don't do the fourth root on the other side. You do.
You fourth it.
You fourth it.
Well, that's what.
Now you gotta do it to the other side.
Yep. So the fourth root of fourth power cancel out. But if you take one side to the fourth power, you have to take the other side to the fourth power. So we get x minus 5 equals, now 2 times 2 is what?
4.
Times 2
8.
times 2.
16.
So 2 to the fourth is 16. And you can use your powers chart. So on your tests, a problem like this would be on the no calculator portion. So if you needed to know what 2 to the fourth power is on your powers chart, you go 2 to the fourth column, and that's it, right?
Yep.
So now what's the last? Now the last step was to continue solving. So what's the last thing I have to do? Add 5. So x equals. Okay, now we need to go back and check our answer. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to rewrite it with 21 as x. So 21 minus 5 minus 3 equals -1. So now we're going to simplify inside out. So what is 21 minus 5?
6.
So I get the fourth root of 16, right? Minus 3 equals -1. What is the fourth root of 16?
2.
2 minus 3. What is 2 minus 3?
And 1.
Does -1 equal -1?
No.
Yes, so my answer works. Okay? The next one I'm going to do is number 4. If you did number 4 correct, your answer is
No solution.
no solution.
Number 4.
Okay? How many of you got no solution? You should get x equals 105. But when you plug in 105 and check your answer, and that's okay because you hadn't seen the rest of that video yet, so you might not have known that. But it actually doesn't work. Okay? So let's see why. How do I undo a square root?
Square.
And then if you square one side, you have to square the other side. And what is -10 times itself?
100.
Just say 1,000.
Add 5 over. So the math itself is pretty easy, right? You get 105.
Yeah.
The problem occurs when you plug it back in. So we take the square root of 105 is x minus 5. And what is the square root of 100, or what is 105 minus 5?
100.
What's the square root of 100? I should say the primary root is 10, not negative 10. So, doesn't work. No solution. You only use the primary root when solving, okay? Next one I'm going to do is number 6. We'll try. Number 6, you should have gotten 2 answers. How many of you got 2 answers? One of us, those of us, trace of us, and a head scratch. You should have gotten 5 and 1, but 1 doesn't work, and you'll see why. So the only answer is actually x equals 5. So let's now see how that's the case. Now this is the one that everyone's going to mess up on the test. So if you pay attention to anything all class, watch this one, okay? We need to get rid of the square root. So how do we do that first?
Square.
Square. Now if you square one side, you have to square the other side, which means you need to put the other side in parentheses as a whole and square the entire side, not just the separate pieces of it. So we now have x minus 2 squared equals 2x minus 1. Now, x minus 2 squared is not x squared minus 4. What did I just do wrong?
You didn't square. Yeah.
What is a binomial squared supposed to be written as?
10 times.
Tyler?
You have to FOIL.
Perfect. That's exactly right. X minus 2 squared is x minus 2 times x minus 2. And we now need to FOIL. This becomes x squared minus 2x minus 2x plus 4. So 2x or x minus 2 squared is actually x squared minus 4x plus 4. So if you don't FOIL it out, you miss the 4x's in the middle. So we haven't done anything crazy yet. It's just the fact that a lot of us will not FOIL out the left side. So I'm giving you that fair warning right now. So now you can kind of tell this ultimately ends up being a quadratic again. And how do I solve a quadratic? Step number 1. Well, get it set equal to
0.
0. So I'm going to add or subtract the x's over, which gives me negative 6x's. I'm going to add this 1 to the 4, which gives us a 5. And we're now equal to 0.
Yeah.
How do you solve a quadratic? We really have 2 options. Bottoms up or quadratic formula. This is a really easy bottoms up. So what factors of 5 add up to negative 6?
-5, -1.
Good. Why not negative 2 and negative 3?
That's
That
stupid.
doesn't equal 5.
Yeah, that doesn't multiply to 5, but that's a common mistake I see. So x minus 5, x minus 1. So what are my 2 answers?
5 and 1.
5 and 1.
Positive 5 and positive 1.
Yeah.
Now chances are, you just did all that work, you did all that algebra, it was kind of a long problem, but you're fairly confident in it, you get x minus 5, x minus 1, x, so therefore 5 and 1, you circle it, and you move on to the next problem.
Yeah.
But what did we forget to do?
Plug it back in.
Check our answers and plug it in, because one of them doesn't work, and if you don't say that on the test, your answer's wrong. Okay? Lawson, what's your question? Not Lawson.
That's mine.
So I did it a little differently, and I wasn't sure if it just worked for this one or if it would work for like any problem like this one. I like moved the x to the other side, then like squared it, and I got like 4 equals 2x minus 1 minus x, then like got x equals 5 still.
You get 2 answers.
No, I only got 1.
Yeah, then you did it wrong. But I can look at it. So our answers were 5 and 1, right? So let's go back to the original problem.
Yeah.
And let's try 5 first. I'm going to plug in 5s for the x's. What does the left side come out to? 3 equals 2 times 5 is 10 minus 1 is the square root of 9. What's the square root of 9?
3.
So 5 works. The problem occurs when you plug in the other answer, which was what?
1.
So 1 minus 2 comes out to what?
-1.
Equals
Yeah.
2 times 1 minus 1 is the square root of 1. What's the square primary root of 1? Negative 1 does not equal 1, so I would not include that in my answers.
That's one.
Okay? Number 7. This looks hard, but what happens when you square both
It
sides?
disappeared.
They both cancel. And now you're in algebra 1.
Yeah.
Subtract 2 x's over, add 3 over.
Can we go back to algebra?
-2.
Yeah, sure. X equals -1. This one's an I gotcha. Because the answer is no solution.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You're so funny, Mr. Starks.
The answer is no solution. Now this one's kind of hard to see. What is 4 times -1 minus 3 more? The square root of -7. On the right side, we have 2 times -1, which is what? -2 minus 5 more.
-7.
What?
What?
It equals thing.
They do equal each other, but they're both imaginary.
Oh my soul.
So graphically, everyone, I want you to get out your calculator right now. Number 9, first step, add 2 over. So I get x to the 4/3 equals 16.
Can't you do that?
Okay, next step, there's a couple ways you can solve this. What would the index be if I turn this into a radical? It would be 3. It would be the cube root of x to the 4th, right?
Yeah.
Equals 16.
Yeah.
So now, we have a cube root and a 4th to deal with.
Ew.
What is, okay, so let's just ignore the 4th. How can I get rid of a cube root?
You got cubed.
Cube both sides.
Yeah.
So the cube root and the cube cancel out, but I still have an x to the 4th. And what is 16 to the 3rd power?
4,094.
4,096.
Yeah, that's right.
So I cube the cube root, and now how do you undo a 4th?
You gotta do the
Fourth root.
You 4th root it. So the 4th and the 4th root cancel out. What is the 4th root of 4,096?
8.
8.
8.
And I'm just going to leave it at that, actually. Did that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
I think that's probably the easiest way to solve that problem. There is a shortcut, but I don't want to confuse you. So.
No.
No.
It's confusing.
It's not.
Get by its